another day, another reading of an old tweet. This one, not that old, about 14 months ago. Trevor Story was being talked about as much as Aaron Judge or Cody Bellinger, or at least it seemed that way. He was hitting home runs at a pretty ridiculous rate the first few weeks of the MLB season. At Sports Card News, which would be myself, tweeted, saw Trevor Story take about 100 at-bats in the minors. He had 5 hits. Looked like he's worked out lately. You all won't remember him in 2 months. Just to check the stats this year in 100 games, Trevor Story hitting .220, 137 strikeouts in a 341 at-bats. That's exactly the Trevor Story that I remember. Sure, he's got a couple home runs, but I think I could hit a home run in the summertime in the altitude in Colorado. What I meant by he looks like he's worked out lately, honestly, he had a bust-out spring training in 2016, and I'd seen him play so many games for over the course of several years in the minor leagues, and when I saw him having a bust-out spring training and then saw a picture of him, I honestly thought he had juiced. I thought that he had taken steroids. He looked much thicker. He's not a very big guy, but he had gotten much thicker from the time that I had seen him, which was only a few years prior. So he'd either worked out a lot, had some enhancement, came up, ran out of bonus money and got motivated. But for anybody who doesn't remember, Trevor Story, the darling of the early 2016 MLB season, card prices shot through the roof, and I was scratching my head because it's certainly not someone I ever would have invested in. 3 topics on the show today. We'll see if we can predict anything. Make you aware of a couple scams going around, one involving some old Topps T206 cards, another involving a PSA Jordan 10 rookie card that happened at the National. Briefly go over those two. Make you aware of those. Talk about, on the last show I talked about buying Brandon Ingram cards. That's something I've been doing. And there's another player I thought of that is in the same mold, actually, of Ingram that I'm buying as well. So share that as well. Third topic. Fanatics signs Aaron Judge to an exclusive kind of memorabilia autograph deal. Card autograph deal probably separate there. Something will probably go down there with Topps or another manufacturer. That's pretty predictable news. Aaron Judge was going to start making some deals with autographs and endorsements and things like that. But on a more macro level, we'll talk about this company, Fanatics, somebody I've been familiar with for many years. Somebody we've brought up probably briefly a couple times on the show. But I think at some point they're going to make a play for one of these card companies or a card license. And I'll explain that. And maybe a couple bonus topics on today's show. The first scam we're going to talk about involves some of the old T206 tobacco cards, the Honus Wagner set, and some sets that Topps made in the early 2000s called Topps 206. And in what Topps did is they bought back a few hundred original tobacco T206 cards, and they put those into this new set as buybacks. And what they did is they, how in Allen and Ginther they have like the framed mini autographs, and it's kind of a mini card into a frame, and the old T206 cards were small like that. So that's what they did. They put these cards into like a framed holder. And as it be, over the years, they don't make the set anymore, but these cards still are floating around, and they sell for, generally speaking, it appears that a T206, kind of a common T206, it'll sell for a little bit more if it's in this buyback, quote, buyback holder than it would if it was an original raw T206 cards. Collectors, there are some collectors of this insert or buyback that Topps used. And certainly have some fans that are looking for these cards, and obviously the original Tobacco T206 cards. Iconic set, one of the most iconic sets ever made in baseball card history. But here's what would happen, and this all played out on the Net54 forums. Scammer admitted to doctoring at least 75 to 80 cards dating back to 2009. This is what you would do. Is on these buybacks, these 206 buybacks, there was no identifying feature that said that this was a T206 buyback. It was in a standard kind of frame, and these frames were used throughout the Topps 206 set, the modern set. So there were modern framed autographs, and there were modern framed jersey cards. Some of those aren't worth very much. So what this person did, this scammer did, and his eBay name is LHARRI 3600, so Larry with an H and an I 3600 on eBay. What he would do is he would buy these cheap cards, these cheap autograph cards or jersey, framed mini autograph cards that were in this Topps 206 set. He would cut out that card and insert some kind of T206 that he bought or had. And then he would sell it as, quote, a buyback. And he says he did this at least 75 to 80 times, but he did it at least 12 times from May to August. You can check his eBay account. And from May to August, he sold at least 12. And he's admitted, and it looks like there are forum posts dating back to 2009 of people questioning him specifically and this going on. This isn't the first time these cards have become an issue. BGS card grader Andy Broom has identified several T206 buybacks that feature not only were they inserted into these holders, but they're fake cards. The one scammer who admitted to faking 75 to 80 cards dating back to 2009, Larry 3600, he put real cards in there. There are other guys, and BGS card grader Andy Broom has two examples of people putting fake cards into the buyback holders and selling them online or on eBay or trying to get them graded. One being a T206 Ty Cobb. A former editor at Topps from that era, from the early 2000s, chimed in on the Net54 forum. He said that Topps, he actually handled the 250 cards, T206 cards they got from Kit Young for one of the early 2000 sets. Talks about that story. But he says Topps didn't chronicle or keep a spreadsheet of which ones they inserted in the packs, because that would be very easy to just go back and see, well, which cards were really inserted, how many were inserted, and that way maybe you can kind of put together which ones are the real ones and which ones are not. Unfortunately, Topps did not keep track of this. Wrote an article about this on Sports Card Radio. It's called Topps T206 Buyback Fraud. You can check out the pictures, the forum links, Andy Broom's article from 2004 discussing the fake cards, and some pictures of examples there. This next scam is a real doozy. Not even sure I can do it justice, but I'll try. Character by the name of Vegas Dave, and if you search his Instagram, it's pretty epic. Kind of shots of betting tickets. He's a big time sports bettor, and who knows what else he does. Lots of shots of the Vegas Strip, strip clubs, women, multiple women, different women in every shot, bricks of cash, verified betting tickets of kind of long shot parlays. Well, this guy, Vegas Dave, pretty well known around Vegas, apparently. He's been banned from Vegas casinos for, it appears, various reasons, including but not limited to, he recently pled not guilty to charges that he used other people's social security numbers to open players' accounts at area Las Vegas casinos. So this is a guy who likes to flash his money around and likes to really flaunt the Vegas lifestyle. He obviously will sell you a sports pick. Well, back in June, he randomly on his Facebook page post a National Treasure Steph Curry BGS 9.5 autograph rookie card worth probably $10,000 or more. He writes on his Facebook page, Vegas Dave, who has lots of followers both on Facebook and Instagram. I would encourage you to check it out, maybe if you're not in a work environment or away from your kids. Again, lots of pictures of the very extravagant Vegas lifestyle. He writes on his Facebook page showing the Steph Curry card, because I'm banned from the Las Vegas sports books, I now have started investing huge in high-end sports cards. The National Treasure Steph Curry is one of the most sought-after rookie cards and has the highest subgrades for this particular card. I'm looking for other top-graded high-end sports cards. Email vegasdave1976@yahoo.com. And so lots of people commented on that. Well, just a couple days later, maybe some people took him up on the Steph Curry or the proposition to sell him some cards. He says, Vegas Dave writes, had to pick up this Gem Mint 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan PSA 10 rookie card as well. I laughed at some of the comments on my Steph Curry post. The ones chirping had no idea that this Jordan and Curry are worth more than the car they drive. Turns out Vegas Dave doesn't know as much about sports cards as he does sports betting, because the 86 Fleer Jordan he showed wasn't real. Looked like it was maybe a fake holder, fake card, and some people called him out in that Facebook post that he made. Said it wasn't a real card. Well, shortly after the National, story breaks. Someone posts, either on a forum, looks like Facebook or Instagram somewhere. Says, not going to be a big shock, but a close friend of mine bought this Jordan 86 Fleer PSA 10 from Vegas Dave for $18,000. Shortly after, Vegas Dave posted on Facebook that he had this card. Said his friend brought it to the National today to get it re-slabbed into a new PSA 10 holder. PSA recently came out with some new holders, or maybe there was a slight ding on it. So he wanted a new holder. He was at the National. He had this card he paid $18,000 for that he got from Vegas Dave, and he wanted a new holder. PSA called him into the back room there at the National, and told him they had to confiscate the card because the card was counterfeit and the slab was fake as well. Now my close friend is essentially out $18,000 because Vegas Dave refuses to talk to him about it and simply said to talk to his attorney. To make matters worse, I just found the following post on Vegas Dave's Facebook page, the one I just described of the fake card. And several people commented that it was indeed fake. So he may have knowingly sold a counterfeit card, and seeing the history, again, just search Vegas Dave on Google and some litany of Las Vegas newspaper articles about this notorious sports better. Now, I don't have confirmation, but it is my understanding that PSA was going to return the card to the person who purchased it. They weren't going to confiscate and then destroy the card, and they may destroy the holder, but they were going to return the card, but they did want to get some scans of that and show the CEO of PSA. But an interesting story there, one to maybe look into a little more, and certainly the ongoing legal problems of this Vegas Dave person kind of makes the story even that more interesting. Might have been kind of a novice sports card person, and somebody took him on a fake PSA Jordan. They know this guy throws around a lot of cash and has a lot of cash. And looks like Vegas Dave got scammed, and then he was able to get rid of the card off onto somebody else. So be very careful when you're buying these high-end cards, and especially if you're throwing around that type of money. So certainly a story that was going on around the National, and wanted to bring it up on the show. Another basketball player to buy besides Brandon Ingram, and I have been starting to buy some of his cards. I'm not that familiar with the Panini America sets, so it's a little difficult for me to dive in. It appears the key cards are definitely Prism, and for Ingram's here, Optic. I like the Optic cards a little bit, so I've been buying some of the base cards and a couple of the parallels. Prism cards are very expensive. One thing to keep in mind about the Brandon Ingram stuff, I think a lot of that stuff is still unopened. So if he does get hot, you're going to see some more cards get put into circulation, because a lot of these boxes are still relatively cheap from last year. So a lot of Brandon Ingram cards are still loaded up into packs, and it'll be opened here if he gets going, because those cards will move quick if they start to go up in value, and those boxes will dry up. The other basketball player I've been buying a little bit of is Kristaps Porzingis of the Knicks. Here's a guy who came into the league, was a darling, got booed at the draft, but then pretty quickly guys were like, wow, this is a 7-footer who's athletic, who can shoot and move and rebound and defend a little bit, and just a very interesting player, more athletic probably than people would give him credit for. Could play a long time in the league. People make comparisons, I think, to Dirk Nowitzki. Well, I think he's more athletic than Dirk. He may not be as good a player, may not have as good as career, but he's certainly more athletic and could certainly have the potential to do what Dirk did in the league. But Porzingis is a guy who's kind of come down in value. He was in doghouse there for a while. There was a rumor that Phil Jackson, who recently got fired, was trying to trade him for the number 1 pick so that he could take Lonzo Ball. So that's kind of exciting as a Laker fan to hear that they were really high on Ball. At least the Knicks were, supposedly. So Porzingis, threatened to get traded, maybe to Phoenix for Booker, maybe to the Celtics for a package of picks and players. Ends up staying in New York. Phil Jackson gets fired. New GM comes in. And even better news, it looks like the ball hog of all ball hogs, Carmelo Anthony, might get traded. Or hopefully will get traded, which will open up more opportunities and essentially make that his team. Kristaps Porzingis. The Knicks will become essentially his team, especially with Anthony, either jettisoned to Houston or Portland or Cleveland or whoever wants to take him. So that would certainly be a huge bonus if Anthony gets traded and Porzingis has any kind of success or rekindles any kind of the fire that he had early on in his rookie year, which saw his card prices spike, but they've come down quite a bit and become more affordable. And he's a guy who you could easily see a re-elevation in those prices. If he's winning in New York, he's the guy, and he certainly has the talent to do so. So I thought I'd throw that out there. Last topic, Fanatics Authentic. We've talked about them on the show before. You may not have remembered, because they're a minor player kind of in the industry, at least right now. They have some exclusive deals with athletes to sign 8x10s and some memorabilia and stuff. They hold some mid-tier shows out in Chicago, the same location actually the Nationals at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center, I believe it's called, out there in Rosemont. They hold about 3 shows a year and bring in autographed guests and Chris Bryant and Cubs players and some big names. and dealer tables as well. Not as big a show, obviously, as the National, but still a respectable mid-size show, decent-sized show for the area. And they recently just signed Aaron Judge to a memorabilia exclusive. They've recently bought Majestic. I learned about this company many years ago. I owned stock in a company called Dreams, and they owned this company, Dreamed, owned an online e-commerce sports store called Fans Edge. Some of you may remember that. And this company, Dreams, were starting to sign exclusive with college teams to run their game day apparel stores and stuff and fan shops and stuff at the stadium. Signing these teams up. The University of Texas, I remember. And I remember listening to these conference calls, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Well, shortly after I bought this stock, really not too long after, maybe 6 months, a year later, they got purchased by this private company, Fanatics, for about triple what I paid for the stock. So it was a good little come up for me. I think I even told my dad, I think he had some shares, and Colin probably had some shares too. So it was just a little double, triple up for all of us. And it was a cheap little stock, like $2, and I think they paid like $5 or $6 for these shares, so for the company. So good little deal for me. Fanatics has been doing this left and right for many years, scooping up little companies, scooping up deals. Now I'm being too boring. Fanatics likes to control the entire supply chain. They like to make the shirts, distribute the shirts, sell the shirts. I really think at some point they could become a player for one of these card companies, either to buy them or to become competitive on the license. Look, they're signing Aaron Judge. That probably was a pretty penny. There was other people involved there. Had some relationship with Bryant and some of the Chicago guys. Lots of guys. Let's run down the card companies and see who would be a fit or not. First things first, Topps would be a great option. The problem with Topps is they have this candy business that's rather large, and also a digital business now that's kind of fledgling. Remember that Topps makes ring pops, and you can certainly find ring pops in more stores than you can baseball cards. They make a lot of money on this candy. Or at least there's a lot of revenue, and that's a bigger business. It's a worldwide business. You find those ring pops everywhere. Everywhere. I've heard that business is still estimated of upwards of $200 to $300 million in sales every year. That's bigger than the sports card business, for sure. Especially now that they only have baseball cards and some other smaller licenses. It would be a tough acquisition because somebody like Fanatics maybe would only want the baseball card business. They don't want the candy business. That's not even something they're involved with. And they probably sure as heck wouldn't want these digital apps, which are bleeding money apparently. So Topps is really iffy. If Topps wanted to split the whole business up, which they may have to do someday, sell the candy, sell the cards, sell the apps, or dump the apps. Maybe you can sell the apps and the cards together. Sell the candy business. Panini, kind of the same boat as Topps. You're not going to sell the entire Panini Global to Fanatics. They're not going to buy the soccer stickers and the comic book distribution and all the other crap Panini has overseas, and then this American company. If maybe Panini Global wanted to sell Fanatics the rights to Donruss and the crap that Panini America has, perhaps. The obvious takeout is Upper Deck, who has less baggage and less kind of other companies or bigger shell company to deal with. You'd essentially be buying a hockey license and a Marvel license. Looks like Upper Deck recently liquidated their UDA stuff with those monumental boxes, which were huge. at the National. Now, of course, there's upwards of $160 million tax debt that they're still sorting out with the IRS. So that could be very complicated too. Another thing I could see Fanatics doing is why don't they just jump in themselves and do it themselves and get a license and get a hockey license. Guess the NBA just got scooped up there by Panini, but maybe the MLB license is going to come up. This is a company that has very close relationships with all the sports leagues. They have exclusives in various ways with all the leagues. And here's the real kicker. The NFL, the NFLPA, and Major League Baseball all have purchased equity stakes in Fanatics. Let me read that again. This is from a May 8th, 2017 Sports Business Journal article. The NFL, NFL Players Association, and Major League Baseball have purchased equity stakes in Fanatics, America's biggest online sports retailer, which has grown to become one of the largest licensees of each league. So the NFL and Major League Baseball own Fanatics, own part of it. You can't get much of a closer relationship than that. And certainly when these licenses come up or some things become available, and as Fanatics is looking to grow, and you could read all the interviews with some of their executives and some of their conference calls, they're looking to just grow and swallow up people. They've become a menace in the sports licensing world. Some people hate them. A lot of people in the sports licensing world, if you're not on their team, you don't like them. They've almost become like Panini in the sports card world. They've started to gobble up licenses, and now the NFL, the NFL Players Association, and Major League Baseball, they own part of Fanatics. They're part of the ownership. So certainly something to keep an eye out on. Wouldn't expect anytime soon, but it wouldn't shock me if over the years we revisit Fanatics many more times and in much more detail, and we'll have to pay much more attention to the goings on over there. Hope everyone's been doing well. Things have been going well for me. First week of the NFL preseason is over. Had a good week. Much more organized this year, which has helped me tremendously. Last year I was doing a little bit of traveling during even some of my peak selling times, which is very difficult. This year I'm much more organized, much less stress. Feels like much less work, and making the same or more money, at least after week 1. So feel thrilled about that. Week 2 of the preseason should exceed, I'm hoping, potentially double what I did in the first week, which would be great. Great start to the year for me, so I'm happy. I'm not stressed, feel good, patient, locked and loaded, ready for the next week. So fun first week of work, and didn't feel like work, actually. Just kind of felt like a little bit of a breeze. Got lucky on the weather for one game. The game was the next day. I probably would have made $1,000 less than I did if the game got played the next day. So dodged some weather, got some good luck the first week, hoping that to continue that into the season. Got my first silver coin on ePack. Thank you to the person who traded me that. Wow, I've gotten a couple good trades, just random that I'm just sitting here and all of a sudden I'll get an email that somebody sent me a trade offer, and I'm like, oh, what's this? They're trying to get my Nick McDavid or something. And then I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, wait, is that real? I need to go accept this. And I literally have to log in and accept, because it feels like they're giving me $30, $40 worth of stuff for like $10, $20 worth of cards a few times. The last couple of trades have been really good on my end, and I've been trying to get one of these silver coins that they came out with. They're $100 a pack, so they're not worth it. You get 1 ounce of silver, and then there's some gold ones in there that are really hard to hit. 1 ounce of silver is only worth about $16 right now. But I finally got somebody to trade me one of these silver coins. So hope everyone's doing well. Hopefully you're not going to any fucking like clan rallies or anything like that. So some ridiculousness. It looks like this past weekend I was grinding and selling tickets and certainly didn't partake and didn't get the full breadth of the news story of clan rallies. Apparently still happen in the United States. So hopefully you got something better to do than that. I mean, and if you're a young person, a young, I used to be a young white person too. Only thing on my mind at that age, that ripe old age of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, I was trying to get pussy or I was trying to get high on some weed. That was about it. And that during kind of my early 20s there, I had a 1968 Camaro too. That was really sweet. And that certainly helped in the pussy factor as well. Again, all these things kind of correlated, together. If you're trying to get pussy, maybe you should have a hot car too. So I had a 68 Camaro that was really sweet. So I actually like to work on that a little bit. So that was probably a hobby of mine. And then trying to, figure out how many classes I could ditch and when the next party was, or when the next, the next girl was coming around the dorm or around the house. So certainly things have changed, boy. In just over a decade since I've graduated college, instead of, chasing pussy and getting liquored up or smoking some weed, these guys are going to clan rallies on the East Coast. So leave it with that. I hope you have something better to do. Until next time.